being only having one leg in a pond, it can be a bit difficult to go and get around, hence the reason I don't wear shoes and boots in the pond. I only have one foot to worry about. But don't ever worry, if you're disabled, don't ever think you can't do things, because they can do everything. Disabled people can do everything. It's great fun to do. Just get out there and inspire yourself to do things, and don't ever be held back by something you want to do.
Cleared a patch of brambles you can slide in.
Here we have tools of the trade. We're going to go in now. We're going to get this big chunking of floating reed out. And as you can see, tools of the trade today are going to be using saws, because we've got to cut through those nasty great thick roots. And obviously I've got a spade as well. That's Paisley to help me steady in the water. And so we're going to go down in there. It's not too deep, and we should be able to get in and start pulling out and sawing out this nice great big chunk of reed with these strong lads helping me pull it up. And the good thing about doing this with handwork rather than using machinery is we're actually doing very little intervention into the pond. And obviously things like a lot of creatures, when you've got a big digger bucket, which we do use, obviously a big digger bucket does a lot more damage to the pond, and we can do it by hand, and a lot of creatures, like frogs and newts and that, will actually swim away while we're working, and we can actually see them a lot easier. So in a lot of ways we actually get things out a lot easier and a lot better. Oh, what amazing roots! Get right down to the bottom, and it's quite surprisingly deep how far the roots go down under here. It's 2 or 3 feet of deep root, as you can see here. Pull this chunk out. If I can get to the base of that, look at that root system. Whoa, how that is incredible root system. There's one here nice to pull out. If that can come out, that one. Watch with Lottie's. Absolutely amazing. That's why I have the strong guys doing the work with me. I'm getting too old now to lift out such heavy chunks. Here we are, another great big chunk coming out of this pond. Oh, it's trying to difficult. Sometimes trying to cut through these reeds, you think you've cut through it, and then there's more roots to cut through. Luckily enough, this is a nice floating piece, which is a lot easier to get out than when it isn't. When it isn't floating and it's in deep water, it's very hard to get out.
How heavy is that?
With water, about 40-45 kilos.
Yeah, probably half of my weight.
When it drains,
right there,
you're looking at 30.
Wow.
The succession of a pond is what is happening here now, in the fact that reeds grow out over the pond and completely fill the pond. And the succession of a pond, it has 4 stages. You have a new pond, you then have vegetation start in the pond. Then what happens is, if that pond's completely left, that vegetation will completely cover the pond. And then as that vegetation grows, it dries the pond out. It fills with silts, either blown in silt or rotting vegetation silt and leaf drop from trees. As that pond then dries out, so then you can get tree species coming in like oaks and silver birch and willows, and once they get into the pond, they go and gradually dry it out even more. So then eventually that pond becomes wet woodland, and eventually you lose the pond completely, it becomes dry land. So man has to intervene with these ponds, even though they've been around a long time. They've always been intervened by man, and man created them to start with down here in Sussex. And we have to keep managing them, otherwise the pond will be lost forever. And we do see that in a lot of ponds, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing ponds that are completely overgrown and in full succession. And as you'll see from that one, how that has changed the pond completely, and how the work on it needs to be done to put that pond back. And also you do get a loss of species as it dries out, and ideally water supports, obviously in this one it's supporting fish. If that dried out there'd be no fish, but obviously this supports a lot of other creatures that want open water, that need open water, but also need surrounding vegetation. So we have to give that range of habitat, which is what's wanted.
Deep.
I'm going to head out into this deeper bit now where the lilies are and try and get to pull up some of this other rush, which I know is starting to grow out here.
Onto the leg.
And it's quite solid, and I've got to try and get it off of the base of the pond. And I think some of this is going to have to be dug out with a spade by hand.
Right there.
Good man. Good man.
This is rooted heavily into amongst the water lily and the base of the pond. But the good thing about this common club rush is it doesn't actually root downwards, it roots out as a mat, but it roots fibrous roots to the base of the pond, which means it actually holds to the base of the pond. Once you can release that matting, which is very, very strong, as you can see the depth of the root systems, very, very strong matting. And once you release that matting and you get it off and get the pressure under it and get it off the root base, the whole plant comes up. That's it. There we go. See, we've got this lovely mat of roots, and see, it's not very, very heavily into the pond. Ah, we just love working in a pond. The water is wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I think it could be due for a swim later. This is a pond to swim in, definitely. Do remember, wonderful natural swimming in ponds is a wonderful thing to do. Should never think not to swim in a pond. Just make sure you always check to make sure it's a safe pond in that respect. Where's the other spade gone?
You had it.
I've lost one. I've got it. It's all right. Coming up, look at that. That's what we like to see. We can look at that root. That root goes right down into the mud at the bottom of the pond. Absolutely amazing. Beautiful water lilies. The wonderful thing to remember about water lilies is you can pull back these petals and you can just eat them. Oh, the scent is lovely. The taste is even better. Pure, straight out of a pond. Oh,
Thank you, Willie.
absolutely gorgeous. Oh, the most delicately tastiest, fragrant food you can get. What a wonderful thing.
That's 11's, bang on.
Yeah. That's the one I want. That one. That's the one that's...
There it goes.
Lovely.
This bit I've got here too.
Wrapped around my leg.
Whipping everyone in the face.
Come down where you are now, in front of you now.
Oh, that's
one.
it.
All right.
Done on Lily?
Got it. No, I've got my hand. Where my hand is. Got it.
There you go.
Very, very thick. Very thick. Not very pleasant to hold in your hand.
Lovely to eat.
There you go, take that. Now I'm wet.
Might as well go for a swim.
I'm going to go for a film, you can see where it drops.
You're going to explore the depth,
He's
Nathan?
going to explore the depth, indeed.
Slowly, because it's cold.
Very slowly.
You might better walk right across. You never know. The water is down low at the moment.
It's where the big fish are out there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's cold in your ribs.
What's the silt like out there?
Very thick.
Yeah.
I think I'm on about a foot of it.
Yeah.
Go on then. Let's go. Go on then.
It hits your ribs and it's...
Oh, that's cold. That is very cold. I'm going to go back. Very cold. Very, very cold.
Once your body gets used to it,
Once the body gets used to it.
Yeah.
They say that about the Arctic as
Lottie's doing really well, Pete. Lottie's doing an amazing job there on your back.
She's loving it.
She's still keeping one eye on me though, isn't she? Look at that. She's like, oh, it's that guy. I don't
loves
like
it.
it again.
It's really good input for her, isn't it? It's really good input. I don't know what she'll do when I go underwater, but she might just fly up in the air then. We're just going to go and have a tea break now. We've done a bit of work this morning already, so now we're going to have a bit of refreshment, keep up those liquids on a hot day, and then we can get back on it and make it look even better.